Good morning. This is Dulia de Silva for Gold FM, bringing you your morning news.
The news headlines on Gold FM.
In your news headlines, Iran's supreme leader is dead. UN convenes emergency session. Sri Lankan embassies issue hotlines amid Middle East conflict. Fuel prices up this month. Last coal shipment also substandard, claims opposition leader.
The top story on Gold FM.
Iran's supreme leader is dead. This was confirmed by state media after hours of silence and denials following the devastating strikes on Iran by the United States and Israel. The government declared 40 days of public mourning following the killing, as well as 7 days of public holidays. It was also reported that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's daughter, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, and grandchild were also killed in the attacks. The major military operation, codenamed Epic Fury and Roaring Lion, began across Iran as the United States and Israeli forces struck multiple cities yesterday, with the Israel Defense Force confirming that they started a second wave of strikes this morning. Hundreds were killed across the country, with an Israeli strike also hitting an elementary girls' school, killing 108 people. Iran responded by launching waves of ballistic missiles at Israel and US military installations across the Gulf. Blasts occurred in the skies over Jerusalem, with explosions affecting Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Officials in Abu Dhabi confirmed a fatality from falling missile shrapnel. The Bahrain airport was also reported as damaged. The strikes by Iran and the US came about mere hours after it was reported that Iran agreed during indirect talks with the United States never to stockpile enriched uranium. That was according to Oman's top diplomat, who described the development as a major breakthrough. Oman's Foreign Minister Badr bin Hamad al-Busaidi also said on Friday that he believed all issues in a deal with Iran and the US could be resolved amicably and comprehensively within a few months. US President Donald Trump took to social media to celebrate the death of Iran's supreme leader. He wrote, quote, "Khamenei, one of the most evil people in history, is dead. He was unable to avoid intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems, and working closely with Israel, there was not a thing that he or the other leaders that have been killed along with him could do." Unquote. Trump said that the goal of the military campaign, which began on Saturday morning with a barrage of missile and airstrikes, was regime change. He said, quote, "This is the single greatest chance for the Iranian people to take back their country. We are hearing that many of the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, military, and other security and police forces no longer want to fight and are looking for immunity from us." Unquote. The United States and Israel meanwhile clashed with Iran at an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, where the UN chief and many countries urged a halt to their attacks and a return to negotiations to prevent the conflict from spreading further into the region and beyond. Secretary General Antonio Guterres told the Council that everything must be done to prevent an escalation. He warned that the alternative is a potential wider conflict with grave concerns for civilians and regional stability. Guterres said the US and Israeli airstrikes violated international law, including the UN Charter. He also condemned Iran's retaliatory attacks for violating the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bahrain, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. The US ambassador to the United States, Mike Waltz, insisted the US military action was lawful. Amir Said Iravani, Iran's ambassador to the United Nations, told the council that the airstrikes killed and injured hundreds of Iranian civilians, which he called a war crime and a crime against humanity. He blasted the UN and the Security Council, its most powerful body, for not heeding Tehran's warnings about the warmongering statements made by the US in recent weeks, and urged the Council to act now. Russia and China also condemned the US-Israeli airstrikes. In the meantime, major oil companies and trading houses suspended all crude oil, fuel and liquefied natural gas shipments through the Strait of Hormuz. The move followed the joint military strikes by the United States and Israel. Trading sources confirmed to foreign media that several tanker owners and energy giants are holding vessels in place rather than risking the transit or using alternative routes.
This is the local news on Gold FM.
The government of Sri Lanka expressed deep concern over the rapid escalation of hostilities in the Middle East, stating that the situation poses a serious threat to regional stability and international peace and security. Calling on all concerned parties to exercise maximum restraint, the government urged immediate and decisive action to de-escalate tensions. Officials warned that all parties must refrain from further provocative measures to prevent the risk of a wider regional conflict, which would result in severe humanitarian and economic consequences. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism said it is closely monitoring the situation of approximately 1 million Sri Lankan nationals living and working in the region. In light of the prevailing volatility, citizens in the Middle East are strongly advised to exercise heightened vigilance. Guidelines issued by the ministry include monitoring reliable local media and official announcements, avoiding non-essential travel and large public gatherings, staying in regular contact with the nearest Sri Lankan diplomatic mission, and keeping mobile phones charged and carrying valid identification documents at all times. Specifically, the Sri Lankan Embassy in Kuwait urged nationals there to strictly adhere to instructions from the Kuwaiti Ministry of Interior and the Civil Defence Department. Embassies in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain also made similar announcements. In light of the situation, all Sri Lankan missions in the region activated 24-hour emergency hotlines. Additionally, the ministry established an emergency operations centre at the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment to provide continuous support. Families in Sri Lanka making inquiries can contact the Consular Affairs Division of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at 074 259 5546 or the SLBFE hotline at 1989. It can also contact the SLBFE WhatsApp or IMO number at 071 980 2822. Hotlines were also provided for those living in Kuwait and Bahrain and can be viewed on www.hidronews.lk/en. The situation in the Middle East is detrimental to Sri Lanka's growth, mainly for tourism. That's according to former diplomat Dr. Palitha Kohona. Speaking to us, Dr. Kohona is of the view that the situation can have an impact on some of Sri Lanka's key exports and energy supplies.
I believe that it's a very unfortunate situation and a difficult situation for South Asian and other Asian countries. For one thing, aviation links with Europe and beyond will be interrupted or affected by the current situation, which is not something that these countries would like to see happen at present, especially given Sri Lanka's own situation at the moment where tourism is doing very well. But the current situation in the Middle East is likely to have an impact on our resurgence in the tourism sector. We also have to remember that there are hundreds of thousands of Sri Lankans employed in the Middle East, and now their safety and security will become an issue. There may even be a situation where we may be forced to evacuate some of our nationals. Recall that this happened during the Iraq War. Again, for Sri Lanka, this is not good news. And then, of course, there are other aspects. Sri Lanka, Iran is a major market for Sri Lankan tea. Middle East is an important market for our tea. Our energy also comes mainly from the Middle East, and that will be affected. So all in all, an upsurge of violence in the Middle East is not good news for Sri Lanka. So we will have to take all this into account when determining how to react to the current situation. It's not going to be easy. It will have to be done with care, taking into account the fact that most of the protagonists in the current conflict are countries with which Sri Lanka has good relations, as well as very important economic relations.
The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation increased fuel prices effective from midnight following the monthly price revision. Standard white diesel rose by 4 rupees to 281 rupees per litre, while super diesel climbed by 6 rupees to the new price of 329 rupees. Octane 92 petrol saw a 1 rupee increment to 293 rupees per litre, although prices for Octane 95 and kerosene remained unchanged. Lanka IOC confirmed that it would match the prices issued by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. Meanwhile, it was reported that some individuals are stocking up on fuel amid anxiety over supply during the Middle East conflict. However, CPC Chairman DJ Rajakarna urged the public to avoid panic buying, noting that sufficient fuel stocks remain in place. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa claims that the 10th coal shipment brought for the Norathchally power plant by the current administration failed to meet the required quality standards. Speaking during a special media briefing yesterday, the opposition leader stated that assessments reveal significant discrepancies in the fuel's specifications, and in the interest of clarity, we refrained from dubbing his remarks.
දිගින් දිගටම අපි හෙළිදරව් කරා මේ ගේන ගල්ලංගුරු ප්‍රමිතියෙන් තොරයි කියන කාරණා. දැන් අපිට හෙළිදරව් කරන්න පුළුවන් පද්ධති පාලන ඒකක වාර්තා අනුවත් ඒ වගේම විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලයේ වාර්තා අනුවත් මහජන උපයෝගීතා කොමිසමේ වාර්තා අනුව. අද අපිට පැහැදිලිවම කියන්න පුළුවන් 10 වෙනි නැවෙනුත් ගොඩබාපු ගල්ලංගුරු ප්‍රමිතියෙන් තොරයි. මෙගාවොට් 300ක් ඉපදවන්න ඕන තැන පළවෙනි යුනිට් එකෙන් 10 වෙනි නැවේ ගල්ලංගුරු වලින් ඉපදවන්නේ මෙගාවොට් 273. ඒ වගේම 3 වෙනි යුනිට් එකෙන් නිපදවන්නේ මෙගාවොට් 275. එහෙනම් 10 වෙනි නැවෙනුත් අවිලා තියෙන්නේ දකුණු අප්‍රිකානු ගල්ලංගුරු. මේ ප්‍රශ්නය ගැන විසඳුම හදිසි මිලදීම් ගැනීමමද? ඇයි මේ හදිසි මිලදී ගැනීම තත්වයට යොමු වුනේ? යොමු වෙන්න ප්‍රධානතම හේතුව අපේ රටට ප්‍රමිතියෙන් තොර ගල්ලංගුරු ගෙනේ. මේ සිදුවෙන ගල්ලංගුරු වංචාවට මේ රජය වග කියන්නට. මේ සියලුම කර්තව්‍යයන් වලින් වාසිය ගන්නේ ඉන්ධන මාෆියා. විපතටපත් වෙන්නේ, හානියට ලක් වෙන්නේ අපේ රටේ සමස්ත ජනතාව. මේකද ඔබ ඇති කරනවා කියපු වෙනස.
Now for some news in brief.
Mainly fair weather will prevail over most parts of the island today.
The business news on Gold FM.
Sri Lanka's construction sector expanded sharply in January 2026, with the Purchasing Managers Index for construction, as reflected by the Total Activity Index, rising from 67.1 in December to 75, the second highest reading recorded.
International news on Gold FM.
The United States voiced support for Pakistan's right to defend itself against attacks from Afghanistan's Taliban rulers following a declaration of open war. A State Department spokesperson identified the Taliban as a designated terrorist group after Pakistani attacks on Afghan territory triggered retaliatory strikes across the border.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
Scream 7 claimed the top position at the Friday box office, overtaking last week's leader, Wuthering Heights, in America. Paramount and Spyglass anticipate $60 million through the opening weekend, which would mark the best debut in the history of the series.
Sports News on Gold FM.
Pakistan handed Sri Lanka its last defeat in the ICC T20 World Cup 2026 in the Super 8 round that took place last night. Pakistan opted to bat first, giving the locals a target of 213, which Sri Lanka was unable to defend. They were out for 207 for the loss of 6 wickets. That's it for now. This is Dulya De Silva for Gold FM. Thank you and have a lovely day.